Hi, thank you for coming today. I have prepared a group of people to listen to my speech today thank you, I appreciate that. We're going to be learning about slope-intercept form because some of you were talking about it and wanted to know more, right? Awesome. So the basic rules with slope-intercept form is to get it into the slope-intercept form. So to start off, we have our basic equation, which is y equals mx plus b. This is the form in which you're going to get a non-vertical line because there is no exponents. So if you had an exponent, it would be more of like a parabola, which we're not going to be covering today. So with the slope-intercept form, we have our m and we have a b. Both of these are going to be variables in which you can put numbers into, whereas y and x are going to be constants where we later can plug numbers into. So our m is going to be our slope, and our b is going to be the y-intercept. So now that we know the basic rules, we're going to now plug in some numbers and go from there. So say that you have an equation that's not in slope-intercept form, it's going to be in general form, which means that it's going to be in the form of 2x. We're just going to take an example, if that's okay. So with this equation, this is in general form, and it's kind of easy to deal with, but it's not as easy as the slope-intercept form is to deal with. So we're just going to change this around to get it into that form. So we're going to subtract the 2x from either side, both sides. So this is almost like that, but we also need the y to be positive, so we don't have to mess around with that at a later point. So let's divide it by -1, which is going to leave us to a positive y. This is going to change around the 2x to a positive 2x, and the -3 to a positive 3. All right, so now that we have it in slope-intercept form, we're going to plug in some numbers into a chart, and then we're going to go and graph it. So when making the chart, we have our y and our x, which are the two constants, but the x is the variable, and so we can get the y out of it. The y is going to be a number that coincides with the x on the graph. So we're just going to take some numbers. It's always best to plot your points around 0, so therefore if you make a smaller graph and it doesn't go off into astronomical numbers like 50 or 500 or 5,000. So let's take a -1, 0, 1, and 2. All very good numbers. So we have our x's, we know what we're going to plug in, and then the y is going to output a number that, as I said, coincides over on the graph. So first one is going to be -1 plus 3. So we plug in the number, which we're going to multiply by the first number. So we're going to get a -2 plus 3. And if you add those together, that's going to be a 1. So we'll add that to our chart. Now we're going to do that 0. So if you remember correctly, all zeros multiplied by a number is going to equal a 0. So in short, this will just equal the positive 3. And we'll just add that to the chart. All right, so we got those down. Got 2 more to go. So we have our 2, we have our 1, and then we're going to add that 3. So 2 times 1 equals 2, which is going to equal 5. And last one. And then over here we have 2 times 2 plus 3. So we're going to have 4 plus 3. It's always best to show all of your steps, so therefore if you find on your graph it doesn't look like a straight line, you'll be able to go back through each individual step to make sure that you are doing it correctly. Because sometimes, 2 times 2 can equal a 4, or 2 times 3 can equal a 5, So you always want to go back and make sure that all of your steps are correct. So this is going to equal 7. We have all of our numbers. Does anybody have any questions so far? No? All right, so let's graph it. All right, so we have our, remember that y and x is going to be a rise and a run. So y is always going to be a rise and x is going to be a run. Just a little refresher on that. It's always very important to label your axes on your graph because when you get into higher math classes, the axes change. So it's always best to do that so that anybody that's looking at your graph is able to follow it. So we have our rise, which is going to be up 1 and over 1. So we have that. We have our rise of 3, and we're not going to go over any, because it's 0. And then 5, up 5, and over 1. And then up 7 and over 2. So now that we have our points plotted, we are now able to draw our straight line. And since we do have a straight line, it means that we did this correctly because we did not have any exponents which leads to a straight line. We did the math correctly because we have our straight line. Does anybody have any questions so far? No? Great. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're good.